is Nathan Reynolds, and he's been on the broadcast before, but it's actually been a while, so I'm going to go ahead and read his bio for you here. After leaving his career in the United States military, then working in the mental health and ministry fields for nearly 10 years, Nathan has devoted himself to writing and speaking about things others would rather not be said. His first book, Snatched from the Flames, tells the true story of his quest to discover answers to his mysterious double life. Born in between the world of the living and the land of the dead, Nathan hunted for vengeance, hope, and healing, until the day came when he made a decision to tell the woman he loved the truth about who he really was. The book follows his family as they make their way out of the deadly underworld and into a life of chaos, conviction, and redemption. Fantastic book. He's been on the broadcast before, and you guys heard that conspiracy intro, so you know what that means. That means whenever I play that, we're going to be talking about some sort of conspiracy, and I have a feeling this conversation could go in any number of directions, as I recently met with Nathan in Colorado a few weeks back, about a month ago, I guess now, and we had some interesting conversations in a diner, and I'm excited to talk about some of that for you guys here on the Revolutionary Radio Project. So with that said, Nathan, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me, Rob?
I can hear you great. Awesome, man.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. You know, it really was a treat getting to spend some time with you and Robbie Davidson. And, I mean, kind of have one of those conversations in a diner that if only you were somebody who had no idea what we were talking about and you just happened to be squished into that diner, and every time Robbie leaned backwards, people are like turning over and elbowing you back, and what is happening there? You know, it's one of those kind of conversations that went all directions.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. With all that said, yeah, let's go ahead and dive in, man. I mean, it's almost like, where do we begin? We had this crazy conversation about Arizona.
Descendant of the other side of the Reynolds line, which basically it branched off from a man named Hardin Reynolds. Two sons were born unto him that would end up becoming what everybody thinks of when they say Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil, sandwich bags, and or anything to do with aluminum in our country today. And on another side of that, R.J. Reynolds is a man who ended up founding and developing one of the biggest tobacco monopolies in the history of the world. And so the vast majority of tobacco and nicotine delivery devices out there in existence come through the Reynolds family. And so they ended up joining together at a key time in their life in the 1860s, and they wanted to build themselves a little kingdom. And there was a coin that had been rumored to be in the possession of a gentleman named Joshua Cox. Joshua Cox was a 6'6", not giant, but he was someone who actually had a key that unlocked this whole underworld to him. And what that key was a coin. And this, to most people that do not grow up in magical families, you don't understand the power of a totem, the power of an object that has a spiritual charge placed into it. Spiritual forces are manifested through that. And so this coin is something like that. It's called the Joshua coin. It's named after him because he was basically someone who was able to escape death and build fortunes by touching this coin to any person's fortune, and it would grow a titan. It would literally manifest a titan, is what they referred to it as. A titan being an allusion to the original Nephilim, first generation Nephilim after the Watchers who were born unto them, sons of God. And they believed that they could summon up the old titans of old. In the 1800s, there's all these people who started going around and digging into mounds, digging into a lot of the ancient occult ideologies and trying to resurrect these old gods. So one of the gods that these people began to try to seek and chase was Quetzalcoatl, which is the plumed serpent, where we get the name America. He was called America. Timothy Alperino did a great expose on that on his YouTube channel, where he breaks down where America gets its name, and it's called the land of the plumed serpent for a reason. And so people began to mingle with these kind of occult ideologies and practices and trying to do ritual magic in order to grow a industry. And so the spirits that gave them the ability to do that passed it on through this coin. This coin was believed to be one of the original 30 pieces of silver that Judas betrayed Jesus with. So it's a very dark, occulted coin, if you will, in a sense. And they wanted to grow that fortune. So Abram Reynolds and R.J. Reynolds actually did this. They did basically touching the coin, and they passed on this lineage, just like Jacob and Esau. When you start to deal with brothers, all kinds of feudal warring and everything else starts to take place from then there on out. But coincidentally enough, wouldn't you know it, right after they do this, 3 of their brothers and sisters are all killed before the age of 6 years old. And that is, at the end of the day, the true price of growing and manifesting these demons, manifesting these powers, is they require blood. There is a spiritual hierarchy, and if you want to manifest that spiritual realm on this side, you have to physically give it a type of energy. And the purest, most debased form of energy is an innocent child before the age of 9. It's like Aleister Crowley, founder of the OTO and this really dark black magical workings through theosophy. He prophesied and spoke, if you want to use true power, you need an innocent boy, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, under the age of 9 years old, and you defile them physically, emotionally, sexually, and then that fuels these spiritual powers. And this is open public information in the historical account that these are the things these family members have been enacting in. And so I'm just a generation now, 3 generations since, that was born into the same family, and I chose for me and my family to set a different precedence where at the age of 30 I don't reinitiate my children into that same path so I can get rich and have access to the trust fund. And there's Patrick Reynolds is another person who denied a lot of his inheritance because of that. And so there's a legacy of people that are going out there and trying to expose how their families built these empires and how they got grafted in to what are truly absolutely evil criminal families.
Wow, that the whole idea, that the coin could have actually been one of the coins, the 30 pieces of silver that betrayed Christ. That's really interesting to me.
And God dealt with that. He said, destroy it, utterly destroy it. This stuff is absolutely cursed. And it's a very literal thing. You're very intentionally cursing an object in order to grab and pull the dark energy through it. It's like you're making a portal so that these other spirits can channel through it. It's not necessarily that the object in and of itself has the power, but it's the belief behind the object. It's the memories. It's the spiritual forces that manipulated and coerced. Judas, it said, the dragon entered into Judas. It says the accuser entered into him, and then he took that money. So if you understand, the devil himself held the money. That's why they believe it. So they believe it's the best money from the most debased source on the history of the world.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. You
so
think about
want that to build fortunes out of.
Wow. You
they
talk
want
about
to build
ultimate
blood
betrayal.
money fortunes.
Yeah, there's no greater ultimate betrayal than that. Betraying the Son of God himself, and the dragon, Satan, the serpent, entering Judas to do that. Wow, you want to talk about a supercharged talisman.
Everybody talks about the spear, right? Everybody talks
about... And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I am your host, Rob Skiba, and this evening I'm talking with my guest, Nathan Reynolds, and right before the break, we were talking about charged talisman objects of significance, and in particular, the coin, or coins, of Judas that he used to betray Christ with. I don't know if you ever got to, maybe I cut you off, but apparently somebody has one of them. Do you know what may or may not have happened to the other 29?
I do not. No, I do not. A lot of times these are passed along as a family heirloom. Let's just put it this way. And so the reason I came out, people like Patrick Reynolds have come out to expose their families, is because these secrets of how to build these kingdoms has always been something that genuinely is guarded with blood. My family, in no uncertain terms, blackmailed and extorted people, if not outright killed people, that talked about these kinds of activities and how these people built those fortunes. There's a reason, people don't talk about these things up until more recently. There's been this very massive shift lately where people are actually willing to entertain the idea that there is radical, intelligent evil out there, and maybe some of the most powerful people and influential people in the world are tapping into that power and are doing the most debased things, unimaginable things, in order to build their kingdoms. And that is why I'm someone who wanted to come out here and make sure to expose this stuff and bring this stuff to the information, because in these magical families, children are then given something called a path coin. As you progress in your development, you end up choosing a deity or a god specifically to fuel you and empower you. And the gods that I was influenced by were the dragon himself. I believe Quetzalcoatl, the dragon of old that people have been beguiled by and learned the ways of death from. And so this ties into the mark of the beast and Typhon and the king over the pit and a bridge in Arizona right in the middle of the